They call it the American dream. I was stuck in an airport in Washington, D.C., jet-lagged after 17 hours of flying, and my bus to Ocean City had just left without me. 8 hours stranded in a country I'd never been to before. That's how my American journey began, flying to America with almost nothing and coming back 3 months later with nearly thousands of dollars saved, plus stories you'll never believe. That's exactly what happened to me. But what does it actually look like when you're just a student and trying to survive in a country where even a pizza shift can change your life? In this video, I'll take you inside my work and travel journey, how I got my visa, what life was really like working 2 jobs, the insane challenges I faced, and the moments that made it all unforgettable. If you've ever thought about chasing the American dream, this is the raw, unfiltered version.
It all started, I would say, at the beginning of January 2023. At that time, I was in my first year of my master's degree in Czech Republic. One day, I was scrolling through social media and randomly came across an ad from a company called CZ, which actually helps students get part-time jobs in the United States through the work and travel program. I had already heard about the work and travel program when I was doing my bachelor's degree, and I was kind of interested in that, but never actually followed through. This time though, I thought, why not give it a try? I read a lot of reviews about the company and everything actually looked good. So that's why after that I scheduled a meeting with the company. At their office they explained everything to me, and I would say that I was really happy with all terms that they had. Just so you understand, the program cost was $1,250 plus about $200 for extra expenses like booking a embassy appointment, and some more few small extra fees. But if I were to apply through a similar program but from my home country, it would cost around $7,000 actually for the same program. So I think you understand, and you can imagine how happy I was at that time, because I moved to Czech Republic and I was able to go to the United States for way less money. After making the arrangements and initial payments, they sent me a list of available job positions. Each one came with an hourly wage and the name of the state and city. And there were tons of options like beach lifeguard, hotel cleaner, ice cream seller, pizza maker, waiter, and so on. They were all over the United States. So it really came down to me. Did I want to work in the forest, or in a national park, or on a beach, or maybe even in Alaska? The choices were endless actually. But before choosing, of course, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube about the best places to go, where you could make more money and still have a great time. And in the end, I choose the Ocean City. It is in the state Maryland, and my position was a server. And if exactly to talk about the city, Ocean City, it's a small resort town where families from all over the country come to the vacation. There are tons of attractions and awesome ocean beach and incredibly beautiful sunsets, which I 100% will show you a little bit later. The hourly wage for my position as a server was just, try to guess, yes, just $4. And at this moment you can think, that's terrible, considering the average hourly wage for most jobs in the United States is about $16–20. But here is the catch. Most of waiters' income comes from tips, and in the United States tipping is basically a must. For example, not leaving a 10–20% is seen as very rude. So during a 5–7 hour shift, a waiter can easily make around $100. And just between us, a little spoiler for you. In July, I was getting $100 tips just from one table, and I had about 3–4 tables per every shift. So you can count it by yourself how much I made for that period. That's why I picked up this role. Once we agreed on the job, we finalized the details, and the next step was just to make an online interview. It went pretty smoothly. I introduced myself and answered some basic questions. Their main goal was to test my English level, which of course makes sense because, as you understand, being a waiter means you are constantly interacting with people. Finally, they approved me, sent me a job offer, and then a tap company scheduled my United States Embassy appointment. And as I remember, it was on the 31st of March, so I only had to wait about 1 week. The embassy interview was really quick. They asked me some basic questions, and I think it took maybe 5-10 minutes. And at the end, I heard the magic phrase like, "Your visa is approved." So I had to leave my passport at the embassy, and within 6 days it was delivered to my home with the visa inside. I was beyond excited to finally see the United States visa in my passport because it meant I was 100% going to the United States. The only thing left was to buy tickets, finish the semester in my university, pass all my exams, and then fly to the United States on my scheduled departure. Actually, everything went well, and I managed to get all planned things. Everything was already done before my departure. Finally, the long-awaited day came, and my route was from Prague to Doha, and then from Doha to Washington. In total, my journey took around 17 hours, and as you can imagine, I was absolutely exhausted upon arrival, especially considering the massive time difference. And the most interesting part is that from that moment started my, let's say, American challenges. While I was going through final document checks at the Washington airport, the pre-booked shuttle bus that was supposed to take me to Ocean City decided to leave without me, just because I was 5 minutes late. And it wasn't even my fault. Even though they have originally said they'd wait for everyone, but of course they didn't. After that I contacted them and they told me that I'd have to wait for the next shuttle bus. But you know what? They told me that it would arrive in 8 hours. And I think you can probably imagine my reaction to that. I was in a completely new country after flying for 17 hours, and now I have to wait 8 more hours at the American airport. And to make things worse, Washington DC's airport isn't in the best condition. Honestly, I expected much more from the capital's main airport. But of course, I had no other choice, so I waited, because by the end of that summer, I imagined I'd be just like that guy. Eventually, at 11 p.m., the long-awaited shuttle bus finally came. The ride to Ocean City took about 3-4 hours. Since it was the middle of the night, there was no point looking out the window, because it was pitch black outside, so I still hadn't really seen the America yet. After a long journey, we finally reached my new home for that summer. It was a 2-story cottage in very good condition, with several rooms, a big kitchen, and a cozy living room where everyone would hang out during their free time. When I walked into my room, I was surprised to find that I'd be living with 2 girls from Serbia. Apparently there was no any separation between male and female roommates. Later on, I got to know the rest of the people in the house. Everyone was super friendly and welcoming. Most of them actually were from Serbia, Bulgaria, Turkey, and a bit later a guy from Tajikistan joined us. He ended up being one I talked to the most. The first days were a bit tough in terms of adjusting, because I felt constantly sleepy from the time zone shift and travel fatigue, but overall I was incredibly happy to just stay there, talking in the atmosphere and the fact that I actually made it. The next morning I took a walk along the beach, strolled down the famous boardwalk and just fully soaked in the first impressions. I felt like I was living in American movie, like I had stepped straight into the places I'd only ever seen in films or YouTube videos. Despite the whole vacation town vibe, the warm sun, the beautiful beach and all the attractive people around, I kept reminding myself that one of the two main reasons I had come here was to make money. So I needed to stay focused on both work and making the most of my time in the United States. So the first big step before starting work was getting a social security card. It is the special number that gives you the legal right to work in the United States. If you are curious, you can look it up because employer can't just hire you without it. But here was the catch. Ocean City doesn't have a local government office that issues social security numbers. So I had to go to nearby city called Salisbury, which is about an hour away from the city and requires 2 transfers to that place. I picked a specific day and left at 6 a.m. To my surprise, when I got to the bus stop, it was packed with homeless people, and you can probably imagine my reaction. I was a little nervous, especially since they were shouting and acting pretty weird. And by the way, I was the only one foreigner in that bus. But in the end, I made it to the right place, got everything done, and they mailed my actual social security card to me about just a week later. As soon as I received my social security card, I was able to start my job. So I did it the next day at the Lazy Lizard. It is a large waterfront restaurant with about 700 seats. And of course you could sit both indoors, outdoors, and there was even a dock where guests could park their boats and eat right there without any problems. And if you stayed till the evening, you'd be treated to absolutely stunning sunsets. I was really lucky because I lived just a 2-minute walk from the restaurant, so I didn't have to spend anything on transportation. The first few days were pretty tough. As you can imagine, when Americans or Brits speak in their native English, their accents can be very hard for foreigners to understand them. And on top of that, I'm someone who takes a while to warm up with new people. And working as a server definitely requires you to be outgoing and very communicative. Over time, of course, I got used to everything and I didn't have any problems with that. Each day became easier and more interesting for me. But the biggest issue at first was how few customers came in during the morning shifts. I will explain you. We had 2 shifts in our restaurant. The first from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m., which was usually assigned to newcomers. And the second one from 4 p.m. till 10 p.m., which went to more experienced colleagues. As it turned out, the tourist season in Ocean City doesn't really start until July, and the main wave of vacationers only begins arriving towards the end of June. And of course, this was very unfortunate for me, since, as you already know, my earnings depended directly on the numbers of customers. So, as all students, I started to looking for a second job with the plan of going there right after my first shift as a server. And please don't be surprised, because this is totally normal for students of work and travel program. Almost everyone either works two jobs or asks their primary employer for extra hours. The job search process was as simple as it gets. I just went into cafes, restaurants, pizzerias, ice cream tracks and amusement parks and just asked all of them like the main question of that summer: are you hiring? That's exactly how most students found their second jobs. To be honest, it wasn't really easy by that time, because people kept telling me, sorry, the season hasn't started yet, we have enough staff, or they just asked me to leave my phone number, but they never called me back. Eventually, after 2-3 weeks of searching, I managed to land a second job as a pizza maker. The team there was super friendly and we were allowed to take 2 free slices of pizza for our lunch. Plus, at the end of the shift, we could take home any unsold pizza. And honestly, that was a gift from above, because it helped me to save a lot of money on both lunch and dinner every day. Yes, I know that eating pizza every day isn't healthy, that's obvious, but during those 3 months in America, I didn't really care about my diet at all. And here is another very cool life hack: eating at churches. In almost every town where work and travel students go, there are multiple churches, and some of these churches offer free breakfasts about 3 times a week. Of course, most of the people who come are low-income locals, but there are also a lot of international students, and no one feels embarrassed about getting food, because everyone's trying to save money and take as much as possible to their hometowns. The breakfasts were always very good, fresh, tasty and filling, and the people working at churches were always super kind. And in addition, twice a week at other churches they gave out free grocery bags with different kind of products, and of course everything was fresh, clean, tasty, so no problems with that. And I never once had any stomach problems. So if you are planning to go to the United States as an international student for a work and travel program, definitely look for churches. Either ask someone directly, or you will usually find a flyer tapped on to the door with the actual schedule for free meals and food distribution days. So use this life hack, guys, it will save a lot of money for you. Soon enough, the season finally kicked in and the streets of Ocean City became packed with people. Then came 4th of July and every single restaurant was absolutely full of people. That was a really crazy day. And of course at Lazy Lizard all 700 seats were taken, and even there was a huge line of people waiting outside, and even both sleeps were absolutely filled. You can't even imagine how that day was crazy. Orders were coming into the kitchen non-stop, and all the waiters were constantly running around. And guess how much I earned that day? I repeat for you, as a waiter in a 5-hour shift. Take a wild guess. You can even drop your answer in the comments. Well, that day I made $800 clean straight into my pocket. That's how insane the July 1st shift was. Later in the evening, people gathered around the world wall, and there was an amazing fireworks. That day is definitely one that I will remember for a long time. So July was extremely intense. This was the month I earned the majority of my money. At the pizzeria, for example, we had to crank out pizzas one after another at lightning speed for the constant stream of customers. And on top of that, we'd sometimes get huge orders for 20, 30 various pizzas for different events. It was complete chaos, and that's not even counting the fact that I'd already worked a full, demanding shift as a waiter every single day at my first job. So you can imagine, right? Like 5-hour shift in the morning as a server where you have 5 tables with, let's say, crazy people, and after that you have the same crazy people but on the shift as a pizza maker. So really tough and really active days for me in July. But please don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining at all. I genuinely enjoyed every single moment I spent in the United States. About every 4 or 5 days I'd go swimming in the ocean, and that, by the way, was my first time swimming in the open ocean. For those who don't know, Ocean City is on the Atlantic Ocean, and sometimes waves were so big that they'd pull you pretty far out. When I wasn't too lazy and still had energy left, I'd head over to the pull-up bars to squeeze in a bit of exercise. I tried to give my body at least a little sport movements, so I wouldn't completely let myself go. A couple of times we even had small storms, and when that happened, the ocean went wild. Lifeguards wouldn't let anybody in the water. One day it rained so hard you wouldn't believe it. I actually filmed it, not sure if the video truly captures how heavy the downpour was, but you have to look at that. And of course, please don't forget that Ocean City is surrounded by ocean from one side and from other side, and at times it felt like nature could flood the entire town without much effort. And at that day we were sent home early from our morning shift as servers, because there were no customers at all. But I still had to go to my second shift to my pizzeria. To just give you an idea how was it and how bad the flooding was, walking in sneakers was absolutely impossible. The water level was up to my shins, I would say to the middle of my shins, and the buses honestly looked like boats floating down the street. So I ran to work barefoot. Just no words, please look at that incredible sunset. If nothing else, just give a like for this video, just for this sunset, please. And no, I didn't use any filters, that's exactly how it looked like in real life. So now let's move on and let's go to the August. August was pretty good for me, not so active as it was in July, but no as bad as it was in June. So pretty good. Tourists were still coming to town, so the earning issues I had in June were no longer a problem for me. But then something unpleasant happened. I had a small conflict with the owner of my pizzeria, and because of that I had to change my second job. And the worst moment for me at that time was that I would say that in the beginning of August it was almost impossible to find a second job, because every position was already taken by any other students, so I just didn't have a chance to continue working for my dead owner of that pizzeria, and anyway I had to change my second job. So I had to find something new, and I tried to do it. And finally I got lucky. I found a new job just in 2-3 days. I worked as a butler. It's like a server helper. And to be honest, I ended up making even more money at that job than I did at that previous pizzeria. And I can explain you. Every shift we had 4 or 5 waiters, and every server tipped me about $20-30. So altogether at that time I was earning somewhere between $150-250 per day from my 2 jobs combined, of course. And by then I have already saved up a pretty solid some of money. But I realized something. Aside from Ocean City and the one brief night in Washington City, I hadn't actually been anywhere else. And let's be real. Coming to America and not visiting New York City would be a crime. So I booked a trip to this iconic city. I won't talk too much, just check out the footage I managed to film during my 2 days there.
Walked along Fifth Avenue, one of the most famous and expensive streets in the world. Saw tons of giant rats digging through trash. Visited Grand Central Terminal, which I knew from one of my favorite animated movies, Madagascar. Took a walk through the world-famous Central Park. Made it all the way to the Brooklyn Bridge. Checked out the museum from the movie Night at the Museum. Went up to Summit 1 Vanderbilt and saw absolutely stunning daytime and nighttime views of New York. Visited Times Square at night, where the giant screens never turn off. And of course, I couldn't live without visiting the Statue of Liberty, at least one world wonder I can say I have seen with my own eyes.
Overall, the experience left me absolutely blown away. The city has its own soul, its own unique atmosphere that will definitely stay with me in my memory and in my heart. And I'm incredibly grateful to God and to my family for giving me this opportunity. And by the way, I bought a small painting as a souvenir for $20. It's now hanging at home with my family. And after I got back to Ocean City, I just went back working, trying to earn as much as it was possible, because as you know, my goal was to bring back a big amount of money. But just one major expense I had planned in advance was buying a new iPhone. First of all, I needed it to kickstart my content creation. So just like that, August flew by, and suddenly it was the 10th of September, time for me to fly back to Czech Republic, since my classes were starting in 2 weeks. And of course I said goodbye to all my new friends. I said goodbye to America, but I promised myself that I'd be back. And now I think the most important or most interesting part of the video for you, there is the answer to a big question. How much did I actually make for that summer? Well, the total amount I brought back from America that summer was 9,800 over 3 months, plus a brand new iPhone 14 Pro Max, of course. I don't actually know how it sounds for you, but for me that's really amazing. I never expected it to add up like that, especially since the first half of the summer was so slow. I spent that money over the course of the following year, and it helped me fulfill a few of my dreams. I went to Madrid to see El Clásico at Santiago Bernabéu Stadium. I visited Atletico Madrid's stadium. I went to Euro 2024 in Germany and even saw France versus Poland live. In short, I got the absolute most out of the money I worked so hard to earn. And to wrap up this video, I just want to say, this whole trip to America, the crazy double shifts, pushing through my limits, stepping out of my comfort zone, it wasn't just about making money, it was about emotions, the unforgettable memories, and the moments that will stick with me during my whole life. So guys, I hope I managed to share at least a piece of vibe of this trip with you, that you felt like part of this adventure. So guys, please don't stop dreaming, just take actions, trust in yourself, keep chasing your goals, and never, please, never give up. Thanks for watching this video. Please watch my other videos. I have a very interesting content and it's very useful. It will be very useful for all of you, and I hope that this video was also very useful for you. Thank you guys for watching again. See you in the next video. Bye bye.